Cheers, Grace Helbig. Cheers, Mamrie Hart.
Oh my god, you can't start like that.
Why not?
That's not our shit.
It's not copyrighted.
It's not our gig.
Ugh. What is our gig?
Fuck you, fuckface. Is that our gig?
This is where people turn off.
I hate you, and here's why.
Why? What did I do?
What did you do?
I did everything. So, new studio, new facelift. You.
Wait a minute. You're telling me I need a facelift?
I'm telling you had one.
When you tell me that I'm not allowed to get Botox because I saw a few wrinkles and you say, where?
No, here's something traumatic that happened to you this past couple weeks. I saw you on Twitter. Like, I saw a wrinkle and, I looked in the mirror and I saw Father Time himself. And I don't know what this wrinkle is. I don't know if it's the one that you sit on. But can we talk about where you found this wrinkle? I don't see it.
It was in my forehead.
I don't see it.
That's because I'm not making a face.
Let's make a face. I don't see it.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know what kind of contortions you put your face into to find this wrinkle, but it does not exist.
It was A Wrinkle in Time.
That's a good book, actually.
It was a horrible book. I didn't see the movie because I hated the book so much.
Was that with the Bridge to Terabithia, or is that the same? Did you ever see it? Did you ever read A Bridge to Terabithia?
No, I read. I didn't see the movie. I read the book. It was very sad. But no, I read A Wrinkle in Time, and I read it in like 3rd grade. I didn't understand a fucking thing that was going on in that book.
It was like that Drag Race clip where she's like, I have no idea what they're saying, but shit.
As someone who I consider myself somewhat intelligent, when I was reading this book, I was like, wait, who's speaking? Because there's no... They just put quotes.
It's a deeply confusing book.
So there's like a conversation between like 6 characters, and they put quotes, and you're like, wait, who said this? You did not tell me who said this.
The dialogue is poorly outlined.
But yeah, no, I have a visceral hatred for that book. But anyway, yes, no, I did tweet about a wrinkle that I saw, and I saw it. I will not...
I seen him.
So I need Botox, but you tell me I'm not supposed to get it. I mean, I can't afford it right now, but I'm not supposed to get it.
No, because you're going to do something stupid. Like, you're going to rub a rusty can on your forehead and be like, see, I got the botulism. I can't make expression for 6 months. Like, that's...
No, I'm going to leave a jar of mayonnaise out in the sun for 5 days and then inject it myself into my forehead.
You can't sit in the sun for 5 days. I don't understand why people our age get Botox, because it just makes your hairline recede more. Like, I know someone, I know a few people our age who got it, and their hairlines have gone further back and further back and further, and to the point where they look like, like a bad Vincent Price cosplayer. Like, it's like halfway back their head. Like, it's upsetting.
Well,
you can't do that.
I would assume it is poison, so I'm assuming it would, kill some hair follicles.
Why don't people put, like, scorpion poison on there or something? Like, get more creative.
Because that doesn't solidify to help the wrinkles? I don't know. What do you want from me? I don't know how the science of Botox works.
Oh, science of it works.
But you were leading into something.
Yes.
In your statement.
So, I wanted to get your live reaction to something that happened.
God.
Dear friend of mine and ours, Jewish.
Okay.
You know who I mean.
Okay.
Was a victim of assault and robbery.
Oh.
Outside of the Coffee Bean on Sunset.
I thought you were going to say outside of the synagogue.
No, what's wrong with you? You're so sick. I was on the phone with her.
Has it happened?
Yes. So she pulled into the coffee... I know. But she pulled into the Coffee Bean across from her work. And all I hear her say is, "Get the fuck out of my car!" And then I hear shuffling. And then I'm like, "Are you there? Are you still there?" So I jump in Kyle's car. I drive over the hill during traffic. And I get there. And Apparently, in his 30s gentleman of color jumped in her back seat, like hit her in the face, grabbed her phone, and ran behind Sunset Plaza.
Okay.
But here's why the LA Sheriff's Department is the only thing holding the city together. They responded within 90 seconds because someone else in the parking lot saw it. They found him, and they got her phone back. All within 20 minutes.
Which is probably how long it took you to get there.
Yes, so I pull up, there's 3 cop cars. There's the coffee bean, like, barista and 2 other people. She's in, I'm like, oh my God, because I'm yelling the whole drive over, because I was on the call for an hour from when we were talking until I got there. And the guy was so whacked out on ecstasy or whatever, he stayed on the call. So I'm yelling, this phone is stolen! This phone is stolen! And I just hear in the back, I said, all I heard was, it's just the Crips and the Bloods, man. It's just the Crips and the Bloods. That's all that's left in LA. It's just the Crips and the Bloods. Apparently he climbed on someone's roof, and they found him with a pink phone. But there's 2 funny things that happened beyond this. One, he never hung up the call. 2, to identify the phone, they're like, I was standing there, they're on the phone with her, they're like, we see that there's a picture of David Spade on the background. She's like, yeah, David Spade and Joe Dirt. Have you ever seen the movie? And the guy's like, the cop was very quickly like, no. But this was last Tuesday. They got back her phone. But it was traumatizing because I didn't know what I was going to show up to. Like, was she hurt? Like, did he knock her to the ground? Like, did he take her computer that has all of her writing on it? Like, this was traumatizing. So we went to Taco Tuesday afterward. And she was a lot better. But the LA Sheriff's Department gets my highest recommendation because they responded with a very diverse staff who caught the guy, got the phone out of his hand.
So a competent diverse staff.
Yes, a competent diverse staff. It was an Asian officer and an Armenian co-officer. And a Mexican guy who found the phone. All of which, like, respond... Because, look, this is Sunset Plaza. This is a nice part of LA.
Right.
Like, you're a stone's throw from Beverly Hills and West Hollywood and everything like that. But the fact that a guy was able to sneak up on someone's car and jump in the back seat while they're sitting there on the phone with somebody. So...
I mean, you know... all I can think is... if the same thing had happened to me, you'd be like, we had a good run.
No! But she was like, look. Like, I gave him the phone. I didn't, I wasn't gonna like...
Because she's smart.
Yeah, she's like, I'm not gonna like fight him
right,
over...
no.
I'm not gonna fight him over like an iPhone
She's
SE.
not gonna risk her life over something stupid.
But she's like, but if it came down to a fight, I would have killed him. Like, there's no, compunction about it. She's like, I absolutely would have beat the shit out of him. But...
Yeah, like if he were threatening her life, she's
straight out Israel, like military train. Like he would have died 3 times over, and then I would have had to go visit her in Linwood, the women's prison. But this was.
I mean, she studied with Charles Manson.
Exactly. She's like, look, Manson was nothing. Like this was nothing. She's like, the most traumatizing experience was being in the passenger seat with Angeline driving to Camarillo. But. So that happened, but I have to say, the LA Sheriff's Department, which used to be headed by Alex Villanueva, who met with Caitlyn Jenner during the gubernatorial run and everything like this, really is keeping the city safe. Like, they literally responded to the location in 90 seconds, caught the guy, got the phone back, and the guy pulled up, the last cop pulled up, he's like, you should buy a fucking lottery ticket, man. Like, this doesn't happen. Like, we don't always get the stuff back. And I'm like, I'm fascinated that you were able to chase this guy, catch him, find it, arrest him, press charge, everything within like literally a short amount of time.
If he, as you suggest and as it sounds, if he was really on something,
They think
Couldn't
he was
have gotten far.
They think he was on ecstasy, but he did climb up someone's roof on
But the point is, he's not going to get far. Like, he's going to think that he's 3 miles away and he's 2 blocks away.
He was. He didn't even make it up past the Tesla Chargers.
Right. No. He's going to think, oh, I'm in another country right now, and he's around the corner.
Well, the worst part is he didn't. This was, I think, the weirdest part of all of it. He didn't say anything the whole time. To her, to anybody. He just jumped in, like, reached in, slapped her face, grabbed the phone, like, with one arm, and then just ran, and just started mumbling to himself. Who does that?
Someone on copious amounts of drugs.
Apparently. But, anyway, she's like, I grew up my whole life in LA, and I've never had anything like that happen to me. And that just happened this past week.
Well, you know what? Maybe... Never mind. I won't say that.
What?
I mean, she's a little bit more liberal than we are, so maybe she'll come around too.
Well, but when it comes to that stuff, I think that she's very...
No, she's not a defund the police person.
No. Literally, that's what she said. She's like, this is why I think these people are insane. You cannot say defund the police. Because the police responded to this, and they helped me. And you cannot defund them. Like, that's what their job is. And they were very professional. One of them even got out like an alcohol wet wipe and like wiped her phone down because like this guy was gross. Like he was really like physically dirty.
She probably had some piss and shit on her phone.
Something, and so wiped it down more than usual. And so wiped it down, and that was, but it was a fucked up Tuesday in West Hollywood. At least she got the day off of work. After that, her coworkers were like, "You're not coming in. Like that's not going to happen today." But she's like,
"Nice about that."
Yeah, but she's like, "I think I need to look for a new job. That's enough." So, please be careful out there. Please make sure that your doors are not unlocked to your car at any time, unless you're getting out of it.
I'm now here sitting thinking. Are my car doors locked? But I'm in
You're in a gated driveway. I hope nothing happens.
I'm in your driveway. You're gonna sneak into the fucking house.
I'm gonna sneak in. Okay, I still think that the funniest January 6th tweet was, and I remember live. I remember hiking up the hill.
We're gonna get to that.
We have
just a second.
I remember hiking up the hill and listening to. Like I was on Twitter and seeing all the updates, like, oh, they're in the Capitol, and they're like, they're in Nancy Pelosi's chair. But there was a tweet, like,
do you know what I was doing that day, by the way?
What?
I was flying home.
To?
Back here. I was in Tennessee.
Oh, that was your day after the holiday.
I was in Tennessee visiting my family for Christmas, and I was flying home on January 6th, 2021. And so, like, I land and
they're like, so
turn on my cell service again and was like, what happened? What happened in the 2 hours that I was in the fucking air?
I went for a hike and I didn't know what the fuck was happening with bad service going up the hill. So I was like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. But the funniest tweet was when like Chasen Buttigieg tweeted something to the effect of, this is what Donald Trump meant when he said stand back and stand by. And someone quote tweeted that and said, they in your husband's office and they playing in his wigs. That will remain the funniest thing that happened the whole fucking day.
Well, speaking of which, okay, let's hit that first.
A day that will live in infamy.
So, two things recently have come to light about January 6th. First thing is that Trump was indicted now a third time.
And maybe a fourth time.
Oh, well.
If the Fannie Willis thing happens in Georgia.
Oh, I thought that was all linked into one. Was it not?
No, it's a separate thing.
Okay, sorry, my bad. So I will admit, usually, and you know me well, usually I would have and will have read the indictment in itself in its entirety. I have not. I did not. So I did not come prepared. But I came slightly prepared because I listened to my lovely podcast that I listen to where they break down legal news.
David French and Company.
Yes. No. It is Sarah Isger's podcast. David French happens to be a guest many times.
Imagine having him on as a guest. It's like having John Wayne Gacy on as a guest, but without the artistic ability.
The point is, they were at odds about this indictment, but Sarah, who is the smarter of the two,
Sarah Lopez Sanchez
agrees with the rest of the country, I think, in saying that this isn't going to hold up.
So,
this is another indictment that will go to trial and will not hold up for several reasons.
but this is the only federal indictment, right? Because the other ones are in jurisdictions. Or
Yeah.
no, the classified documents one is the federal indictment. But they're trying it in Florida. See, this is the part that I don't understand. We need like a map of, like, where has Trump not been indicted? West Virginia? But this is one that's, they're trying to basically pin January 6th on him.
Right.
Completely.
But this is where it gets into the weeds of writing laws and being elected to Congress is an incredibly important job, even though, we all think, oh, it's such a cushy job. Because the words that they write are the ones that are then interpreted by judges.
Right.
So the statute that they are cited to have violated several statutes, one of them being that he corruptly, quote, corruptly sought to overturn an election.
What does that mean?
This is the problem. What is the word? This was what was written in the statute by Congress, right?
Right.
So now it is the judicial branch's job to interpret and extrapolate, whatever, the meaning of what corruptly brings to this statute, right? So most legal scholars, again, this hasn't really been brought to a court many times before, if not ever. I'm not actually sure of that history. But most legal scholars say that if you're going to prove that he did so, quote, corruptly, you have to prove that he knew that he legitimately lost the election, but he secretly wanted to overturn it.
And they've said that to the effect of they're like, well, every advisor told them, but that doesn't... You're now trying to adjudicate matters of opinion.
No, but that has no bearing.
Right.
No matter what he's been told by X amount of people, if they cannot prove that he did not actually believe that he lost, then they have lost.
Right.
He cannot be held accountable to have violated this statute if they cannot prove that he knew that he lost.
Yeah.
This is where Trump has been either very smart politically and covering his own ass, or he actually does believe that he won fair and square the election. So, bear with me. So, even up until this day, he has repeated over and over and over again that he won that election.
Right.
So you literally cannot point to a time, at least in public record, where he has said, I know that I lost, but I'm going to pretend that I didn't. Like, they've lost this case on arrival, right? It's dead on arrival.
But here's the part that I don't understand. I don't... I've always said Trump should be taken seriously, but not literally. And that's where I think that it falls short. Because you cannot get a jury to read his public and private comments, which apparently, and this is the part that's really strange that I see, that they were able to obtain some kind of secret warrant to be able to get his DMs from Twitter. Even though I don't think he knows how to use a DM. Like, I genuinely do not think he knows how to send a direct message to anybody, but you can go through his public statements, private statements, and secret statements. I don't think you're going to prove in a court of law to a jury that he thought he lost the election, but he is going to, in a conspiracy, try to use legal or political machinations to overturn it. You're not. And the reason why you're not is like you said. I think that he legitimately does not understand that 81 million people in this country could vote for Biden. Also, most people, and by most I mean a majority of people, have difficulty understanding that. And the fact that major tech companies and the government have worked in concert to silence any questioning of that, when there's a Time magazine piece that really outlines how an election could be fortified and how it was basically a war game scenario of what happens if, oh God forbid, he wins the Electoral College but not the popular vote, then what do we do? When basically they're telling you in so many ways the fix was in. Look, I didn't know what happened. I think it was too close for comfort. I also think that the turnout was not what it should have been. But the fact that mentioning that gets you put into a box that you cannot escape from, that is what worries me. And that's where I think that they don't have a case. Because I don't think that he believed anything other than what he said.
Right.
They're trying to find some secret to him that does not exist.
It's exactly what Sarah said that David French seems to think is false.
Because he's stupid.
Even if he did know, even if he did actually believe that he lost the election, I really don't think there's any way to prove it. I mean...
No.
But even if today he got up at a rally and said, I know that I lost the election, they could not use that against him because at the time, on January 6th, when he was speaking, they cannot prove that at that moment he had the false pretense and the he had the idea that he lost and was trying to, and quote, corruptly overturn the government.
And by the way, it's a selective memory because I remember that period of time, and I remember I was sitting with you watching those returns come in. It looks good for him, then it doesn't. Overnight things change one way or another. But then watching a very strange thing happen. When I saw major corporations, I saw it was a press release from somebody like ESPN or something, like ESPN certifies the results of the election and realizes that the elected president is Joe Biden as a 46%. I'm like, what? Why is a sports broadcasting network or a hardware store or a corporation like Johnson & Johnson or whatever these companies are, why are they certifying election results? What did they do? And you watch this whole sort of dominoes happen of and then there was the day that Joe Biden, quote, won after the election. And then there was so many legal challenges because you realize that, oh, it might have been under 10,000 votes that decided it in this country. Well, let's look into voter fraud and why there are ballots the way that they are in certain places, and you can return them 30 days after the election, but they still count, all that crazy, nonsense that happens in certain states. And so, living through a time like that and being there, it's oh, I can understand why someone's wait a second, something doesn't make sense here. Someone is not telling the truth about whatever happened. So that's why I don't know what the larger game is with these indictments because I don't see any of them sticking.
I think the one out of Florida probably is going to stick.
But that's the classified documents case.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Here's why I think that
because if he was caught on
serious.
camera, if he was caught on caught on video or tape recording, knowingly committing a crime, and he said it out loud.
But I know that I'm not supposed to.
I know.
Yeah.
But it's still on. It's pretty damning evidence to use in a court of law that says, I'm admitting to the fact that I know that I shouldn't be doing this, and it kind of violates the law, but I'm going to do it anyway. It doesn't look good. And keep in mind what they the evidence they present in an indictment is not all the evidence they have.
Right.
So that was the tip of the iceberg. So if they have more damning evidence other than that, then he's kind of sealed for that.
But I'm seeing a common thread here of them saying he knows what he did, but they're not speaking his language. Like, okay, he's saying on tape, I have all these documents I'm supposed to show you, everything like this. But then apparently in Georgia they have him on tape saying other things, and he's other thing. Okay, he says a lot of things on tape.
No. So he said on tape to, I want to say the Secretary of State, right, of Georgia.
Yeah, Raffensperger.
Find me those other votes.
Yeah,
that can be taken in a very myriad of ways.
Because 2 seconds earlier, that he said there are these votes that we don't have an accounting for. He said, find those. Yes. What is as any human would say. With the same thing with these documents, saying, okay, we have these documents, everything. Well, I'm not supposed to show you these, but this is what they said about Iran. He could have showed a picture of, a Polly Pocket guide to whatever. And regardless, that's a document that potentially was already declassified. So you have to prove like 4 things to make that possible. I think that they think, and by they I mean the government or whoever is doing these indictments, they have to prove intent. And that's one aspect of a case that's very important.
And very difficult.
That's a very difficult thing to prove. And here's where I don't think that you cannot prove intent from somebody who just says a lot of things. This is where they lost. And by the way,
this is where his drag queen stuff gets him and helps him, I guess.
It's true, but to be fair, this is where the government lost a lot of mafia trials. Because they'll say, oh yeah, we dealt with that guy. That guy was such a pain in the ass, everything like this. Well, the guy is not dead, but someone else shot him that they didn't know. We dealt with him, meaning we had a conversation with him, and now he's not a problem anymore. This is why all of the RICO statutes and things like that always fell through, because they were like, dealt with or whatever. Like they didn't understand the function of what that kind of verbiage actually meant. Like it's so funny because I feel like, what was that? It was an HBO series about a old guy who died, who killed a couple of people, and he kept getting off every time. Robert Durst. And there was
I don't remember.
There was something where I guess a wife had died, then a previous wife had died, and one they thought fell down the stairs, and one was yes,
because the HBO
yes
the staircase
it was something like that. But the guy was recorded in front of a urinal talking on microphone after the interview. He's like, I buried that one and I buried the other one and I buried both of them and they both died. And he walks out and they're like, wait a second, he just confessed to both of the murders.
No, he didn't.
But
he said, as a husband, I buried my wives. Like, that's what he said. He didn't mean...
But that's, I think, what they try to catch someone like Trump in, is like he's going to say it out loud when it happened. That's not what happens with these people.
No, you're absolutely right. But this is where... I'm sorry, people poo-poo and dismiss linguistics as like this, pseudoscience. It's a real thing. Yeah. Words mean a lot, and this is the highlight of what I wanted to take from this conversation, is that writing a statute, writing a law, and using the words that you use mean a lot when it comes to how is this law going to be implemented. Because do you know how many cases the recent one with Sarah Palin against, and I forget the newspaper.
New York Times.
Yeah. Where she was trying to prove defamation.
Yeah.
That is an absolute almost impossibility to prove. And she probably came the closest of anyone, and they still ruled against her.
She really did, and it really was a case where they said things that would otherwise be defamatory. She was slightly less public.
Because you have to prove intent. Right. You cannot prove someone's intent and their mental state when they say something unless there is actual proof that they sent another message, maybe in writing, to someone else saying, I know what I'm doing is wrong, but I'm going to say it anyway because I want to take this person down.
Which, by the way, a decent defense attorney that's impeachable. Like, they can be like, obviously this person's crazy. What kind of person says, I'm going to kill this person? No one says that. So it's It's the hardest thing to prove. You're proving a wish. You're proving a.
You cannot prove
emotion.
someone's mental state 99% of the time.
Right.
And so this is one of those things that is not going to stick against Trump. But
the classified documents case.
No. But this leads to, and I talked about this with Dear Colin the other night.
Who?
Our one listener. I'm a little scared because I think this indictment in particular could be what leads us to a civil war. Because I want you to think about this in the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
Two sides who, for all intents and purposes, do not understand how law works, right? So the things that we've just discussed here about linguistics
are very high level.
Yes, but what you have to, what you have to write in a statute and then what you have to prove in a court of law. That stuff is not published in everyday, news articles.
Right.
Either right or left. I'm not saying like one side's better than the other. So if this case falls on, Trump's side, if Trump wins this, the left is going to be so angry that he's not being held quote accountable for trying to overturn an election and dismantle
democracy,
dismantle our country, right? That's going to spark them. If it falls in favor of the left,
and he goes to jail,
for this one in particular, the right is going to say this was stolen from him. This was a sham thing. They made up all this shit.
Right.
And they're going to have that spark of, we're not going to take this anymore. Like, if this happens to him, it's going to happen to us. We're going to fight back.
Right.
This potentially could lead to actual bloodshed.
Over a drag queen.
It kind of scares me. I'm going to be honest.
No, I get it. And I think it does because it's a matter of both sides racing the gauntlet to the point where, we learn in political science. not to wave my degree around.
No. One measly degree.
Oh, it's very measly. I didn't even get a minor.
Versus my 3.5. We're having a dick measuring contest.
3.5 inches. One thing we learn, if it's two sides that are escalating conflict, boom, 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 boom. No one's interest is that they go to war. We learn it's a very Cold War concept. It's no one's interest that they bomb each other or anything like that. But if you feel like your opponent is in a very difficult position, you have to give them an out. And like you said, this is a conflict that's building, but the other side is not giving the other side an out on either side. So if he does get indicted and then arrested and then goes to jail, then what's the out? You cannot put a president in jail, especially for something that's this specious. But if he also doesn't go to jail or doesn't, by their standard, have any accountability for what he says, well, what can you do? Then you're telling them that their whole belief about the system is illegitimate. You're not giving them an out. Maybe the out that you could do there is saying that, well, we went through the justice system and it was fair and everything like this, and, let them donate to the ACLU if they're pissed off.
It's never anything the left has accepted.
No, they never accept anything. They always agitate over whatever happens. I don't think that people on the right would riot if Trump went to jail. I'm going to be honest. I think people would look in the headlines and be like, oh, that's sad, must be guilty, and then move it along. And I think that that's the saddest and most upsetting thing about all of this, is that people's belief in the system of law and order in this country is so pervasive that if someone does get arrested, they think they're automatically guilty. If someone goes to jail, they think they did it. If someone doesn't go to jail, they think, okay, they didn't do it. This isn't the OJ case, This is something very different, and that's a problem. with this situation that happened with my friend this past week, they asked, do you want to prosecute? Like, do you want to make sure that this person is arrested now off the street? She said, absolutely. She's like, I know that there's a societal disparity here that I know that I could be stepping on the line of, but this person assaulted me, took my phone, and then ran and stole it from me in the middle of a conversation. This person should not be on the streets or in public life. But there are people on an extreme who think that that's pushing it too far. Those are the people that you can't deal with. Because that's an extremist level of you don't understand how an everyday situation is supposed to go. Most people, I don't think that Trump did anything that was illegal. I think that they think that Trump operated as he understood within the law, with whatever he did.
And yes, no, you're absolutely right. And to that point, and Sarah Isgur, as someone who is taking up for him and his side, she doesn't like him, right?
Yeah,
we know
all.
this. But she says doing something immoral and doing something illegal are two very different things.
Yeah.
Doing something that I don't agree with and doing something that breaks a law are two very different things. You go to jail for breaking the law. You don't go to jail for doing something that I think is wrong.
Right.
And so this is where she was like, David, you're wrong. Because according to the law, he's going to get off. And according to this specific, indictment, he did nothing that is illegal.
That's why I think, playing to the larger point, I think that maybe they are forestalling some kind of civil war at the highest levels. I think that they're like, look, throw every indictment at him that we can. He littered in 1973. Throw an indictment. They're not going to stick. There's nothing that you can get to stick.
It's a statute of limitations for littering.
But literally, it's like that level of like, and also, he ripped off a mattress tag. But we're at that level now.
That's an old wives' tale. Anyway.
Well, how many mattress tags? Are you a mattress tag ripper?
I believe if you read the fine print, it says, do not rip off this tag until purchased. So once you purchase it, you can rip.
Then why would it say, like, by the letter of the law, you can't remove this tag? But,
anyway.
Okay. I feel that they are in a position where it's like, let's throw whatever at it that we can see what sticks. But by the time you do discovery, by the time you schedule these cases, by the time you do all of this, it's not relevant anymore. And there's nothing you can push him on. I think that they want to get all the minor and co-conspirators out. I think that, someone said Giuliani's probably going to go to jail. I don't know what that means, but we'll see.
Well, there's two more things that I want to just lightly hit before we wrap this up.
Hit them lightly.
Two more political things that we'll save a couple of cultural things for our next episode.
Which we may record after this, we'll see.
Well, I guess three light things. So 2024 election, first of all. Apparently Mike Pence has made the cutoff to get in the first debate.
Oh, that was the one thing I wanted to talk about today.
He got enough donations
singular
to put him over the threshold.
Did you know that Mike Pence has a brother who is a representative from Indiana?
A national representative?
Yes. It's like Greg Pence. It's his older brother.
How many does Indiana have? Probably like 5?
Yeah, something like that. But his brother Pence, representative, on January 6th, said, we're going to vote against the slate of electors. And even after the Capitol thing happened with his brother and everything like that, was like, you know what? We're not going to certify the election. We think that there's something kinky going on. Did you know that?
No.
That I just read that this morning, and I am fascinated by that. Because everyone's like, oh, his brother was going to die, he's going to die, he's going to die. You know, oh, they're going to come and hang Mike Pence or something like that. And his own brother, who was in the Capitol, who went through all that, came back to the podium and was like, yeah, something's fucked up here. We need to send it back to the States.
Meaning he knew that there was nothing actually, like no one was actually going to hang him.
And it was bullshit. But then, to the present day, his brother's congressional campaign fundraising has now enmeshed with his running for president foundation. So his brother's congressional campaign fund closed under one name and then reopened under the same name for Mike Pence's run for president. So there's something hinky going on there with the two brothers Pence, who I didn't know existed until this morning, when it comes to fundraising for the election.
Maybe that's how he got it.
But that's the thing. It was like $50-something thousand.
Right.
That might have been what got him to the debate stage. That's weird.
Yeah.
I don't trust political families, by and large. I didn't know that there was a Pence political family. I didn't know that these people had any kind of relevance. I thought he was just, an honest and simple man. He ran for governor or whatever, and then he became, But that's very strange.
Yeah. So secondly, Vivek Ramaswamy.
Oh, God.
I have to say.
I didn't watch the end of the video, and I choose not to.
No, I'm again, very lightly, I'm going to say, some of his political stances and the videos that I've watched about him actually talking about policy, I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand where you're coming from, and I kind of like what you're saying. I will admit that.
Do we think he is an effective actor? That's the part for me that's always...
I don't know.
I don't want to listen to him talk. I don't want to look at his forehead.
He's a good speaker. He is.
But I just... There's something about him that is very not on the level. And I don't know what it is, and it might just be someone's own bias. But... I know that he wrote a thing about January 6th was one of the worst days to happen to our country, and later on he's like, oh, Trump was fine and everything. And I'm like, okay.
I saw a video of him taking on someone who identified as a pansexual, blah, 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 who tried to, ask
He took on Wayne Brady?
Who tried to ask him some kind of gotcha question, and he very respectfully and succinctly and accurately answered her question in a way that she had to stand there and be like, thank you for answering my question, but kind of to her a new one.
Do we think that
it was impressive.
What's his end game?
I don't know. He's somewhat of an enigma to me. I don't know. I haven't paid too much of attention. I've watched a few of the videos that have passed through my Twitter feed.
I am fascinated that he's polling higher than DeSantis in a few polls. It's true.
Yeah.
Your friend, Ron DeSantis.
But...
Rhonda. Your friend Rhonda!
That video of him rapping...
I refuse to watch it.
He is not so bad, but it's still cringeworthy because it's like... I don't know. There's something about you want to play that likability card, right? You want to... Everyone always says, if you want to be president, you got to be that person everyone wants to have a beer with at the end of the night or at the end of the day. They want to be friends with.
Oh yeah, you guys want a beer here?
That was pushing him into that camp in that category, but it was just still cringeworthy.
Yeah, there was something about it that I can't.
And support. I still say my tweet about it was the best. I can't wait until my presidential campaign where I get to, stand in front of a crowd and start singing 212 by Azealia Banks. That'll be a highlight.
Oh God.
But last thing, really quick. So the shit that's happening in Hawaii.
Yes.
You heard what your dear president.
My
dear president.
Dear president.
You heard what he had to say about that, right?
Yeah, I had no comment.
That in and of itself, I'm sorry, should be you can't even say, we feel very badly and we're
Someone's-
looking into helping.
Someone said that if Trump said that, we would have at least a week-long news cycle. Women on The View throwing themselves in a funeral pyre. Like, people would be so fucking furious if he said
But
that.
that is not even the point. The point is, like, you can't coming out of a church service at least say we're praying for them. That's it.
Yeah.
You have to say, oh, I don't want to talk about that, or no comment, or whatever the fuck he said. That is enough to tell us immediately the people who are actually running the White House didn't tell me what I should say, so I can't say anything.
I think that they have basically trained him to say no comment if there's a word that he does not understand in the phrase.
But
Or
this
in
is
the
a
overall
large problem.
Oh yeah, 100%. No, he can't do anything off the cuff at all.
But a trained monkey could answer that question off the
He
cuff.
has a name.
It's not it. If this man is elected again, I have lost all faith in this country. After that act alone,
I think
if that act
yeah.
is not played up
Yeah.
in this next
Election.
campaign cycle, he needs to be called on that. Because if Hawaii goes blue this election, I have lost all hope for this country.
Hawaii is
And
a
I will
weird
never
state.
vote. I
No,
will never go with Hawaii.
It's interesting because Hawaii is a weird state because you have a lot of 60s hippies and stuff like that. But the island that has the highest indigenous population by percentage, Niihau, which is north of the major islands, voted exclusively for Trump in 2020 by the indigenous population. So there's something about Hawaii that is a very odd electoral state. And it would be interesting if they went red. They had a governor, Linda Lingle, who is a Republican Jewish woman governor of the state back in 2008 and was a potential vice presidential candidate with Sarah Palin at the time. They have, if you want to turn them red, it's not going to take much, but I hope that they rebuild what happened in Maui there, because that's
whoever's the Republican nominee, commit immediately. I will name Tulsi Gabbard to be Secretary of Defense or something.
something.
Maybe defense wouldn't work, but she was part
Well,
of.
the worst part is they said this was a hurricane wind, but it was also preventable. Lahaina, it's really sad. It's I've been there. It's one of the oldest parts of the whole state. It's in Maui. It's this beautiful fisherman's village. Okay, Lahaina burning down, the equivalent is if Corona Del Mar burnt to the ground. It's that level of wow. That's not supposed to happen.
The issue here, though, is because this very similar thing happened in Tennessee not too long ago. It was the perfect storm of there was bad infrastructure that started it, but then the weather
just amplified. Yeah.
Because wind and lack of rain.
As it will happen 10 more times for the rest of the year.
Right. And it's not climate change.
No, that's the weather.
It's just bad luck.
Yeah, ask people about the Galveston hurricane if they're worried about climate change. Or the Long Beach earthquake. Talk about wiping two cities off the map that could have been the largest city in the area. Long Beach could have outgrown LA without something like that. The Galveston hurricane, there would be no Houston as we know it if that didn't happen. It's something that happens. And that's really unfortunate. But that's, you have to prepare infrastructure-wise.
Well, as Biden said to all the people of Hawaii, go fuck yourselves.
Yay!